So, what do a simple cup of coffee and a super powerful satellite have in common? I know, sounds like a riddle, right? But the answer is actually a kind of secret recipe, this fundamental formula that's used to create, well, everything. And today, we're going to break that recipe down.
Just think about the device you might be watching this on right now, your smartphone. It just works. It feels almost like magic. But underneath that sleek glass screen, there's a huge story of global teamwork, incredible effort, and just a few core ingredients that are the building blocks of our entire economy. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? Not just the glass and the metal, but every single person, every single resource, every tiny spark of an idea that had to come together perfectly just to create this thing. That's the real mystery we're going to unpack today. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to uncover the universal formula for how pretty much anything gets made. Then we'll meet the 4 essential ingredients in that formula. We'll zoom in on the human element, we'll meet the master chef who brings it all together, and finally, we'll ask a really tough question. What's the real cost of making all this stuff?
All right, let's jump right in. Section 1. How things get made. This is the foundation for everything else we're about to cover.
You know, it's actually a pretty simple idea when you boil it down. Everything around you, and I mean everything, is the result of some kind of process. And the inputs that go into that process, well, they have a name, the factors of production. Just think of it like a universal recipe for, well, for everything.
Okay, so what exactly are these core ingredients in our recipe? Let's break down the 4 essential factors.
So the first factor is land. Now, it's super important to get this. In economics, land means way more than just a plot of ground. It's like a giant treasure chest of all natural resources. The water in our oceans, the minerals deep underground, the oil we drill for, even the sunlight that hits a solar panel. All of that falls under the umbrella of land. Next up, we have labor. This one's pretty straightforward. It's all the human effort, both the muscle and the brain power. It's the construction worker laying bricks, for sure. But it's also the software engineer writing thousands of lines of code or a teacher explaining a complex idea. Any human work that helps create something is labor.
And our third factor is capital. I mean, just look at a picture like this. This massive, sprawling plant. You know that didn't just grow out of the ground, and it wasn't built with bare hands alone. This right here is a perfect picture of capital.
So, capital is all the human-made stuff we use to produce other stuff. We're talking about the factory itself, the machines inside it, the computers, the tools. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is this. Capital is the stuff we make to help us make more stuff. It's like a massive power-up for all our efforts.
But let's dig a little deeper on the human side of this equation, because it's about a lot more than just the hours you put in at work.
Now, this is a really important distinction. Labor is the raw effort, right? The time you spend working. But human capital, that's what makes that effort so incredibly valuable. It's the skill, the knowledge, the expertise you bring. It's the difference between someone who can swing a hammer and the architect who can design the entire skyscraper. They're both work, but human capital is what creates massive value.
So where does this amazing human capital even come from? Well, education and training are the obvious ones. Healthcare is also a huge one. A healthy workforce is a productive workforce. But what's really fascinating are the invisible things, like social and cultural influences. A society's general attitude toward things like innovation, education, and hard work can give its human capital a serious boost.
And this brings us to our 4th and final factor. This is the one that ties everything else together. It's the entrepreneur, basically the master chef of our whole recipe.
See, entrepreneurs are the visionaries. They're the ones who look at all the land, labor, and capital out there and figure out new ways to combine them. Think of a pioneer like J.R.D. Tata. He didn't invent steel or airlines, but he had the vision to bring all the right factors together to build those industries in India, and that fundamentally changed the country's economy.
And I think this quote from him is so telling. It shows that real, game-changing entrepreneurship isn't just about the bottom line. It's about having a vision, about innovating, and about feeling like you're contributing something to the world.
So if you map out what an entrepreneur actually does, it looks something like this. It starts by spotting a problem or a need. Then comes the really hard part, pulling together the land, labor, and capital. They take on all the financial risk, they make the tough calls that can make or break the whole thing, and if they get it right, they end up creating something new and valuable for society.
Okay, let's bring it all back home to where we started, that smartphone. Now that we know all the ingredients, let's see how the recipe actually works in the real world.
This little flowchart shows the whole dance. It starts with an idea, a concept. That's the human capital in the R&D team. Then an entrepreneur gets the funding and the land for a factory. They source all the raw materials. That's our land factor again. Then, inside the factory, you see labor and capital working hand in hand, skilled people using really complex machines. Every single step is a perfect mix of all these factors we've been talking about.
But that whole beautiful, intricate dance of production, it has a footprint. And creating something this complex definitely has consequences that go way beyond the factory floor. So, in our last section, let's talk about the hidden costs.
The hard reality is, when we take resources from that land factor, it has an impact. And if production isn't managed the right way, it can lead to some really serious stuff, like pollution and environmental damage. That's a hidden cost that you never see on the final price tag.
This all leads to a really crucial idea: responsibility. There's a growing belief that businesses have a duty that goes beyond just their shareholders. They also have a responsibility to the planet and to their people. This means using resources in a sustainable way, cutting down on waste, and making sure their workers are treated fairly and kept safe. This whole idea is often called corporate social responsibility, or CSR.
And this isn't just some feel-good idea anymore. In some places, it's becoming the law. In a really groundbreaking move, India now legally requires its largest companies to spend this much, 2% of their profits, on activities that help society. That's a formal way of saying that a business's job isn't done just because it made a profit.
So, we've deconstructed the whole recipe of production. We've seen the 4 core ingredients, and we've met the master chef who brings them all together. We now get the basic formula for creating everything around us. So the question this leaves us with is a big one. Now that we know how it's all made, how can we, as consumers, as workers, as citizens, push to make it all better?